You would not believe how many times this happens. A major issue flares up in the media involving a business or organisation, and guess what? The CEO, the boss, is away. They're overseas, they're on holidays, they're not available. I tell organisations you must have a deep bench when it comes to media skills. Now, what does that actually look like? Well, stick around, I'm about to tell you. No organisation or brand wants to find itself in the media for all the wrong reasons, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world, provided you've got a spokesperson who knows what to do in the glare of the media spotlight. Now, this has become even more important because did you know many AI platforms draw heavily on traditional media outlets for information about your organisation or brand. So if something goes wrong, we know more and more people are using AI like a search engine. They're going straight to their favourite AI platform and searching, and it's giving them all kinds of information from various sources. Many of those sources are legacy media channels, and that's what's helping to paint the picture of what's going on in your business or organisation. So if ever there was a case for you to invest in your leaders having outstanding media skills, I want to suggest to you that this is the time that they aim for spotlight mastery. And this means having a deep bench. You can't just have a rock star leader who is great in the media because they can't be there 24/7. And chances are something will happen when they're not around. So you need some good bench players. You need 3, 4, 5 other leaders, members of your executive team, or people in your business who could also realistically front the media, but also community meetings, other forums with confidence and credibility. I want to focus here specifically on traditional media. So we're talking now radio, television, and press. Yes, they're still around, maybe not rustly newspaper kind of press, but they have online platforms and websites, and they're still here. And when something goes down that's negative, they're going to be the platforms that are chasing you for comment, for information. So I want to share with you a couple of key tips that you need to be aware of to increase your savvy when dealing with the media. And here's the first one. The media is not looking for the same sort of information that you might be wanting to put out. Put simply, their agenda is not the same as yours. Now, you probably know this at some level, but you'd be amazed how many leaders, when something happens, seem to forget. And they treat journalists almost like their personal PR machine. You know, the media is not responsible for your reputation. That's your responsibility. They're not responsible for putting your brand's best foot forward. Again, that's on you. Journalists are looking for a story that's going to be of interest for their viewers, their readers, their listeners. And that potentially could be very different from the version of the story that you want to put out there, from the message that you want to get across to your audiences. I always think of a media interaction as being like an arm wrestle. It does need to be a meeting of two players of relatively equal strength. The media doesn't have all the cards. Yes, when you're speaking with the media, they own the channel, they own the sandpit that you're playing in, but you control what comes out of your mouth. So you have a key stake in the interaction. So always think of it like that. A lot of the time people go in completely passively and they've lost the arm wrestle before they even start. Or they go in thinking that they only have to speak some words and the media will run everything that they want to say. They think that they can control the arm wrestle, but neither's the case. Both parties have an important role to play. But the media is looking for some specific things. And I reckon there are really 4 key areas that journalists look for when they're covering a story. And this comes from, I spent many years as a journalist myself in radio and television. I've also written features for major metropolitan newspapers. Here are the 4 areas. The first one is what I call the 3 C's. Conflict, confrontation, controversy. If you can serve up a bit of scandal, that's really what the media is looking for, because they perceive that's really going to get attention on their story. Now, that's not necessarily the space you want to be playing in, but I'm just saying that's ideally what they're looking for. So if you're being interviewed by a journalist and they ask you a provocative question or something that's about a highly contentious element of the story, don't take it personally. Don't take offense to that. The journalist is simply doing their job. So you need to be prepared. So whatever the issue, think about what's the most controversial, contentious, scandalous aspect of this that I'm likely to be asked about, and be prepared. Because the 3 C's, number 1 is what the journalist will be after. Now, if they can't find conflict, controversy, or confrontation, they will possibly be looking for human interest. We humans are curious about other people, so the media loves to run stories about people and all their vulnerability. So if your story has got an element of human interest to it, you can lean into that. And that's important for you to recognise. If the story is about something fairly dry, maybe a policy or some sort of report that's been released, humanise it. Think about the human angle. How is this really going to affect people where they live? Be specific. Talk about real people. Speak like a real human with a beating heart. That's going to amp up the human element, and that's going to strengthen the story and your part in it. The third thing the media loves to cover is anything that's a first. The first time something's happened. Doesn't have to be the first time it's ever happened. Could be the first time this year. The first time in your particular part of the world. It also could be the newest, the biggest, the best, the latest, the greatest. Any of those types of adjectives. That's what journalists loves to cover, because new is an important part of news, right? And so don't be surprised if you're involved in something that's in the media, that the journalist hones in on a particular element because they've perceived that there's something new in there that might be very different from the element of the story you're trying to get across. But remember, their agenda is not the same as yours. It's an arm wrestle. You need to uphold your part of the arm wrestle. And the 4th area journalists look for is anything that's relevant to their audience. So there is the key word here. Often we get very fixated on just getting information out to the people we want to communicate with. A media outlet is concerned only with their own audience. Now, if it's a radio station, that will be a particular demographic. Perhaps if it is a newspaper, maybe they cover a specific geographical area. So you need to be aware of that and be mindful of who their audience is and focus on that. If you can do that, that's really going to increase your effectiveness as an interviewee.